What I saw Paul McCartney live a few years ago at a Citizens
Oh,
Bank Park
really?
in Philadelphia. It was very emotional because I'm like, oh man, how this was an awesome opportunity. Yeah,
Yeah, I
loved
got
it.
some Paul McCartney stories. If you want to ask me, I got some great Paul McCartney stories, and I got a
Oh,
George
really?
Harrison story. Yeah,
Oh wow. Sarah's a
Ooh,
huge Beatles fan too.
yes.
yeah,
Are you really,
absolutely.
Sarah? I didn't know that.
You didn't?
Are you
No.
serious? She
Oh
loves
my God.
she liked everything vintage.
Carry my
People
Beatles purse with me every day. I have at least my two Beatles tattoos. Oh yeah.
before we
Do
get
you really?
started,
What are your tattoos? Let's see them.
I
I
didn't know
have
you had
well,
Beatles
one of them I
tattoos.
can't show.
Yes, you
You
can.
can
But
show me. Turn off the
Content.
camera.
I have my first one ever was Let It Be. I have that.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
very cool.
Just, I got into the service industry when I was young, so I kind of had to
Uh-huh.
tell myself, let it be, just breathe a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
No, but that I've always resonated a lot with that. And then I actually have Give Peace a Chance, which is
Okay.
not necessarily the Beatles, it's John Lennon,
Hey,
but
close
Right.
enough.
love that. So
Okay. So Let
huge
It Be is your
fan.
favorite Beatles song?
No, actually, it's not my favorite Beatles song, but
Uh-huh.
it's a
What
top.
is? Okay. What's your
Um,
favorite?
Happiness is a Warm Gun,
Oh,
actually.
okay. Very good. Interesting. I love that song.
It's a
I
more
think,
obscure one.
yeah, on the White album, Paul said they asked Paul his favorite song on the White album, and he said "Happiness is a Warm Gun." That's a true story. So
Oh,
you have the same
wow.
taste as Paul. Yeah,
Oh, I love that.
yeah.
Eddie, okay, so first of all, you have an iconic voice, but
Okay, thank you.
We haven't started the interview yet.
no, I know, but
I
I
thought we were
just like
finishing up.
no, but like the so I'm looking at your background, and your background is just vomit of everything you've been in, which is like the most glorious
I wouldn't
vomit
touch
I've seen in my life.
that joke. Is so easy, but yeah, the critics do vomit when they see my work. Yes.
Oh no, 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 no,
No.
no. But no,
I'll tell
Eddie,
you a story. Please forgive me. What's your name again? I'm sorry. Chris?
I'm Chris. Chris,
Chris,
yes.
hi Chris. Chris, I have 3 vomit stories. You want to get? I'm the only actor in history. My first 4 movies, I vomited 3 of the 4 movies. I did the true story. I have 3 vomit stories in my first 4 movies. If you want to get into that, but it's a true
Oh,
story. They're not
we're gonna
gross,
have
but they're
to.
just I threw up 3 of my first 4 movies.
Oh, we're gonna have to.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, okay.
what I was getting at is that your career is just splattered all behind you, and I had
Yeah.
no idea that you voiced Mandark
Mhm.
in Dexter. You were a part of
Yes.
my childhood. Like that. Like,
Oh, thank you so much.
that's crazy.
Yeah, that was a fun show. I love Dexter's Lab. Great show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We're just gonna keep going. I'm gonna edit that in. We're just gonna keep going. Let me just
This
do the
Okay,
intro
sure.
and this is gold.
Absolutely.
Because
All right.
Eddie, with all due respect, you have a couple titles that really pop out from the rest, like Polar
Okay.
Express and Grease, and so
Yes.
I had no idea all the some of these other roles, and it's just blown
Yeah.
me away. Very
Yeah, and
cool.
Greece, our anniversary is tomorrow. 45-year anniversary for Greece is
Oh
tomorrow.
my
Oh,
gosh.
In fact,
wow.
it seems, how they say in life, it seems like yesterday. When I did Greece, I was 20, and it really does seem like yesterday. In the early days, I would literally take the bus to Paramount. My first day, it took me 2 buses. I get up my call time's like 6 in the morning. I get up like 4 in the morning and take 2 buses to Paramount. Yeah, seems like yesterday.
Wow, wow. I
Yeah.
just called my wife over and just pointed at Mandark, and I was like, "This
Oh.
is who we're interviewing tonight."
I'll do the laugh for you. If you want to do the laugh when you start recording, let me know when you want to do the laugh.
Oh, I'm recording.
Please.
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay. Okay, I'll do the Mandark laugh. Let's get out of the way.
What?
I'm not as good as I remember. I was like in my 30s, I think, when I did it. So I'm 66 now. That's all my adenoids have left.
Oh my
Eddie, my
goodness.
sister's gonna freak out when I show her this. This is what we used to watch growing up. That just made my year.
Yeah, it was a wonderful show. Chris Kavanaugh was the original Dexter, and unfortunately, she left us too soon. She was. I did her first job with her ever. We did a radio spot together. We were husband and wife, and then we later did Dexter together. And she was having trouble, mentally troubled, and she was taking these drugs. I remember these pills, and she couldn't control her. She was wetting her pants. I remember when we were doing it.
Oh my
She was having a real hard
goodness.
time.
That's
You don't have to put
insane.
this in the broadcast, but because she was like Chris Kavanaugh, she was wonderful, but she was having a lot of problems toward the end. And then she retired. She literally retired from showbiz, and another girl called Candy Milo took over, who was great. And then Chris, passed away, unfortunately. Yeah.
Wow, Eddie, you have gotten around. You have
Yes.
gotten around, my
Yeah.
friend.
Uh-huh.
All right,
My ex-wife
Scott.
got around a lot too, but
Okay,
a different
Scott.
story.
This Scott, start this up before I just
Okay.
explode with
Scott,
with,
I like your
my
shirt.
childhood.
Thank you so much. It's kind of
Yeah.
my staple. I wear Hawaiian shirts and a fedora a lot when I go
Very
to the
cool.
park. Yeah.
Very
Thank
cool.
you. All right. Welcome back to the No New Friends podcast. We are joined by an extremely special guest. We've been lining this interview up for a while. I'm so excited. You've seen him in Grease and Grease 2, and you've heard his voice in the Polar Express as the know-it-all kid. And there's so many other credits too, which we're going to get into. But we're joined by Eddie Deezen. Eddie, how are you this evening?
Great. It's so nice to be on your show, Chris. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you. Oh, geez, I forget. What's the first man's name? I'm so sorry.
Scott, the most important one.
Scott, Chris.
We'll just give the show to Chris.
The idiot forgot. Okay.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Scott. Hi, Sarah. Thank you for having me on your show. It's my pleasure.
Thanks for being on. And I'll edit the part about all the voices and all that.
Yes, and edit the part where I forget your names like a schmuck. Yeah.
That's the best part.
Yes.
They forget my names on a regular basis. It's fine.
Well, I do that all the time. You're three very nice, wonderful people. And I do that with waiters in a restaurant. I'll forget all the time. I'll forget who my waiter was. I'm 66. I'm at the age where I can remember the earliest memories. I can remember walking the first time. I can remember being fed in my crib. I can remember being toilet trained, literally my earliest memories. But I will be in a restaurant and I will forget my waiter. And I'll forget something. I'll go, did I just say that? I'll forget these real close memories, but I can go way back easy. I remember all my memories from kindergarten, all those early memories I remember.
Wow. Sarah does not remember a whole lot either, but that's more like weed induced.
Okay. No.
So Eddie, where did your career start? Tell me how you got into acting and voiceovers and stuff.
Okay, I'll tell you the story that got me started off. I'll tell you a weird story, and this story, I'll tell you a story that changed my life for $1. My entire life was changed because of $1. Okay, I was born in 1957. I was born March 6, 1957. I was graduated in 1975, and I knew I wanted to be a comedian. So I was planning around my junior year. I'm going to go out of high school. I'm going to go to New York and be a comedian. You go to either New York or LA. But I'm in Maryland, so of course New York's closer. I'm going to go to New York and start my career. So the summer of '74, my family and I would go on a vacation in New York City, and I was exhilarated. Have you been to New York?
I have.
Yeah, yep. It's exhilarating. The great restaurants, the people, just the thrill, the crowds, the shops, the shopping. It's so much fun. And I was caught up and I was exhilarated. I went to see the Marx Brothers movie had been re-released, Animal Crackers. And I went there 4 days in a row at the Rialto. I was in heaven, seeing the Marx Brothers on the big screen. I was so happy. I had a joyous time. So I'm with my parents one night and I go, I'm going to go out for a walk. And I was 17. I probably weighed about 105 pounds. I was skinny as a straw, So I'm going to take a walk. So I went out alone without my family for the first time. So I'm walking on the streets, taking New York in. This guy stops me on the street. He goes, "Hey, can you give me $1 for change?" $1 for change? Okay. So I get a dollar bill and I give him $1. So the guy just stands there. I go, "Where's my change?" He goes, "You didn't give me no dollar." I go, "Yes, I did. I gave you $1. Where's my change?" He goes, "You didn't give me no dollar." I go, "Sir, I gave you $1." And we went back and finally it dawned on me, I realized I'm being hustled. I grew up in a little town called Cumberland, Maryland, and we didn't have hustlers like that. This guy was a street hustler. He's a con man. I've never met a guy like that. He roughed me out of my mind. Now, this guy was a big, strapping guy. Obviously, I can't physically fight him. I can't do anything. He's got my $1, and I know this guy's got me. So, I just let it go and I went into the crowd. My legs were like shaking. This is the first time I've been cheated, even though it was only $1. Anyway, I get back to my room and I go, "I hate New York." I go, "This city's a crap hole." I go, "I'm never going to come back." And I said, "I'm not going to come back." So I changed my career plans. And instead, the next year I went to LA. If that guy hadn't cheated me out of that $1, I would have gone to New York. I probably would have never worked. I would have never gotten the movies. Wow. I would have never got Grease. So the guy changed my whole life around because he cheated me out of $1.
Wow.
That's tremendous. So he might still be alive, this jerk. I don't know whatever happened to him. But anyway, to answer your question, I went to LA. Okay, then 75 I came to LA. Then 1975 the summer. 76 I started out the Comedy Store as a stand-up comic, and I performed twice in the one in LA. And these are the days, I saw Jimmy Walker there, who's a big comedian. When I came out, the three big comics were Jimmy Walker, Gabe Kaplan, and Freddie Prinze. And I saw Jimmy Walker live, and I performed at the Comedy Store twice. I got good applause, good laughs. So Mitzi, the owner of the Comedy Store, goes, "Why don't you go to Westwood? You're a good comedian, go to Westwood." So I went to the Comedy Store in Westwood, and I tanked. I went there, and it was like crickets. I did all my jokes. "Hi, my name's Eddie Deezen." Applause, applause, applause. Go, "Sure, but will you respect me in the morning?" That was my opening joke. Dead silence. Crickets. Died. And I said, "I hate doing stand-up. I didn't want." So anyway, about November of that year, do you guys remember the old Gong Show with Chuck Barris?
Yeah.
Okay. My TV debut was on the Gong Show with Chuck Barris.
Wow.
They had open auditions in Hollywood. Yeah. And I got on the Gong Show. I did my routine. I was Gong. Sarah, if you don't know it, it was like a talent show. It's like America's Got Talent. You'd be on it. The celebrities didn't like it. They would gong you with a big gong.
I
So
think
did
I
my
actually have heard of this.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
it's coming back.
on YouTube. Yeah, my episodes, we can't find it, but you can see the show on YouTube. And they did a Gong Show movie. But I did it, and Paul Williams, the singer, gonged me. And so I didn't win, but I won a waffle iron. They gave me a waffle iron as a consolation prize. That was my prize. And anyway, later, Paul Williams gonged me. Okay, so this is like 30 or 40 years later. I'm at an audition. Who's there? Paul Williams is sitting there. So I go, Mr. Williams, hi, I'm Eddie Deezen. I don't know if you remember, but you gonged me on the Gong Show 30 years ago. He goes, oh, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I go, Mr. Williams, he goes, please, you got to forgive me. I go, Mr. Williams, it was a lark. It was a joke. I didn't take it serious. Please don't take it so serious. Of course I forgive you. He goes, you don't understand. He goes, I'm an Alcoholics Anonymous. He goes, we have to get the forgiveness of anybody we've hurt. So I go, Mr. Williams, you didn't hurt me at all, but he was very, very serious. It was really important to him. So I accepted his apology, and he was very sincere, and he apologized to me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh
very sweet guy,
man.
very nice man. Yeah.
So how did tell me about the Grease audition and how that
Okay.
came to play?
Okay, this is this is a very religious story. I don't know if you guys are religious or secular. All three of you, it's none of my business. But take this how you want.
Well,
It's
Sarah's Jewish.
Okay. Oh, shalom.
And
Shalom.
Chris and I are non-practicing Catholics.
Okay, I understand. It's none of my business. I'm just saying religious people take this as a very religious story. Secular people say you're just lucky. It's a total coincidence, but this is the true story. I go into Greece. I went into my audition for Eugene. I dress up in like a Pee Wee Herman suit. I had a little ice cream suit, and I greased my hair. And it was called Grease, and I didn't know Eugene. I didn't know didn't have grease. The tough guys have grease. Eugene didn't have grease in his hair, but I had Vitalis, and I put it in my hair, and I rubbed it in a lot of grease because the movie's Grease. Anyway, I went in. I auditioned, and there were three guys there: the director Randall Kleiser, the producer Alan Carr, and the casting director, Mr. Joel Thurm. And while I was auditioning, I had like 3 lines as Eugene, and they were nudging each other. And I read my lines, read again, and they were nudging each other. So I thought that was a good sign. They were nudging each other. They meant they liked me. So anyway, I went home about 2 days later. My agent called. He said, they want you for Grease. You're hired. So of course I'm over the moon. I called my parents, my brother and sister, my friends in Cumberland, Maryland. Like, I'm in this movie with John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. It's called Grease, blah, blah, blah. I went crazy. Anyway, about 3 days later, my agent calls me again. She goes, Eddie, I have bad news. They're going to write you out of Grease. They decided Eugene's not an important character. He has a small role. So, they don't really need him. They're going to write you out of the movie. So I'm sorry. So, I wanted to kill myself, of course. I thought, wow. She goes, I'm going to come over and see you. She drives over and sees me. She goes, we're going to go to church and pray. I go, I'm Jewish. She goes, come on, we're going to go to church. There's a church that's still there. It's off Hollywood in Vermont, in Hollywood. It's called Our Mother of Good Counsel Church. It's like halfway up there. There's a theater there, a movie theater right by it, but it's a church. You can still see it. But anyway, we went in the church. He goes, we're going to light candles. I'd never done this. We lit candles at the altar. She gave us a match. We each lit these candles. They had an altar. And we prayed fervently. I prayed, please let something good happen to me. God, please, God, let this go good. Anyway, I swear to God, about 2 days later, she gets called. Eddie, they called me. They want you back in Greece. So they put me back in Greece. Now, again, religious people go, oh, the Lord was looking over you. That's a God-driven story. Secular people, my friends say, it's a total coincidence. You just lucked out. You just got a break. So take it however you want, but it's a 100% true story.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Very cool.
So was this Jewish church or a Christian church?
It's a Christian church.
Okay. All right. So
Christian
Sarah,
church, Sarah
Christian
would say
God
Goyim.
is better than Jewish
Sarah
God.
and I can say it was Goyim. Yeah, it's Goyim
Goyim,
church.
okay.
Yeah. But it is totally a Goyim church. Yeah. And yeah, I think it's the first Christian church I've ever been into. I used to go to synagogue all the time when I was a kid. We go every week. But yeah.
That's so
Once
interesting.
a week, twice a week, 3 times.
Right. And as you know, Sarah, this is, I think it's changed a little bit. It's come a little bit more modernized. It's a very, I'm not criticizing it all because it's not my place, but it was a very chauvinistic religion in that women were like lesser citizens. We would have what's called a minyan, and it was 10, you needed 10 men. If a woman came, she didn't count. So I would be dragged to minions. My sister got off the hook. She'd never have to go to minions because they didn't mean it. You could have 100 women, and they didn't mean anything, but you had 10 men, and that's a minion. So and a minion was a certain kind of service. Yeah. I think they might accept women now in a minion. Might have changed.
They do now.
Yeah. Okay. So they've become a little more enlightened. Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
You got to reprise your role of Eugene in Grease too, which is really cool, to be part of the sequel.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know how you guys feel about that. I didn't like Grease, so I love Grease.
Oh, it was terrible.
Wonderful.
It was terrible.
Yeah,
no offense, it was terrible.
Now I know I know Scott and Chris and Sarah. I know that Greece, some people over the 45 years since tomorrow's our anniversary, tomorrow is Greece's 45th anniversary. Over the
Wow.
years, I would say I've met 20 people out of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds that love Greece. It's my all-time favorite movie. I've watched it 100 times, blah, 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 blah. Especially girls and women. They just go crazy over Greece.
That's me.
Yeah, exactly. But I've met like maybe 20 people over the course of those years that say, I like Greece too better than Greece. And, it's no, there's no accounting taste.
Wow.
All art is subjective. Like I say, there's people that think the Sex Pistols are better than the Beatles. You can think blah, blah, blah. Joan Rivers is better than Groucho Marx or whatever, because it's all subjective and they like it better than Greece. I always say the people that like Greece too better than Greece are like the people that like The Wiz better than The Wizard of Oz. It's like, I think it's that big of a divergence. Are you crazy? I think Greece, the soundtrack, everything about, when you have a classic like that, you have to have everything, the direction, the acting, the choreography, everything about it. And Greece, everything fit in. All the songs were good. Everybody played their role well. It just was perfect. And Greece too just didn't go anywhere. And I didn't like the music, although they were very nice people. Maxwell Caulfield was a super nice guy. I went on the set the first day, and Maxwell's there in his dressing room. And he goes, Eddie, would you like to come in? And we had tea and cookies. As these cookies and tea's a proper British guy. We had tea and cookies, very gentleman. And I go, this movie's going to tank. I go, this is going to be so bad. But Greece is like John Travolta, in this leather coat strutting around. And I go, this guy can't do it. Even though he's a wonderful actor and the nicest guy in the world, nothing about him. It's just the character didn't fit him. He's a great dramatic actor, but he doesn't belong in a Grease movie,
Yeah.
Now, Michelle's like this bombshell. She could have done. Now, Michelle Pfeiffer I only talked to one time. I met her on the set, and she was like Marilyn Monroe beauty. She was like, knock you out of your socks, beautiful. And I went up to her like in a day. I go like an idiot. I go, you're beautiful. And she goes, thank you. That was the only time I talked to her. I was mesmerized. She was just so drop dead gorgeous.
Now, Eddie, you talked about the 45th anniversary of Greece. There's also another very important 45th anniversary coming up. Can you tell me what that
was? That don't tell me. 45th anniversary. Was that
that you were involved in? Yes, I want to hold your hand.
Of course, yeah.
Yes, I want to hold your hand, which was which of course was about
Bob Zemeckis' first film.
Yep,
Robert Zemeckis, my favorite director's first film, and the first film Steven Spielberg ever produced.
Really?
Didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a true story. And I play myself. I'm a Beatles nut. I'm a rabid Beatles fan. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's it's the story of 7 teenagers go to see the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964.
Now, Eddie, where were you from? Where were you from?
I'm from Maryland.
No,
Maryland.
in the movie.
I'm sorry. I'm from I don't remember. We're from New Jersey, I think.
Yes, the greatest state in America. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
No, Chris is from New Jersey. You'll have to excuse my friend.
Yeah, no, Jackie Gleason, Jerry Lewis, Frank Sinatra, New Jersey. I mean, Frankie Valli. There are New Jersey with Joe Pesci. New Jersey's fun, great talent.
Oh,
yeah.
Now, what I wanted to ask you is, you obviously, we talked a little bit before, you love the Beatles. Now, how important was this movie to you? Since you have this amazing love for the Beatles, and do you have any fun Beatles stories?
Yes, this ties into it. It's funny you say that, Chris. This Beatles story ties right into it. Okay, I do a scene in the movie. I don't know if you guys know the Marx Brothers. Are you Marx Brothers fans?
I know the Marx Brothers. Yeah.
Okay, the Marx Brothers do a movie called Animal Crackers. It's what their second film. In the movie, Groucho's doing a scene with Chico, the Italian brother. And Groucho's talking, and Chico does this shtick. He goes, they're doing a tech. He goes, I try to solve the crime. And I go, where would they put the painting? And the answer come back, it's in this room. And I go, who would have stolen it? And the answer come back. And he does this gag, and the answer come back. Anyway, I stole this gag and put it in I Want to Hold Your Hand. It's me and this girl, Wendy Jo Sperber, who plays Rosie, and we're trying to get tickets to the Beatles show. So anyway, I go, I'm the greatest Beatles fan. I'm the greatest Beatles expert in the world. Ask me any Beatles question in the world. You can't stop me. I know everything about Beatles there is to know. I go, ask me who's the oldest Beatle. And the answer come back, Ringo. Ask me who's the youngest Beatle. And the answer come back, George. Ask me which Beatle has blue eyes. And the answer come back, Ringo. And I do like that. But I stole the gag. Anyway,
I love that.
Later after it came out, I had a friend named Joe Pope, who used to write, and tragically he died of AIDS, sadly, but he was a great guy. He used to do a Beatles magazine called Strawberry Fields Forever. And he somehow got an interview with Paul McCartney.
Wow.
This is like a couple of years later after we did I Want to Hold Your Hand. And he goes, Paul, did you ever see a movie called I Want to Hold Your Hand? And Paul McCartney goes, and the answer come back, Ringo. And the answer come back. So Paul McCartney did an impression of me, which is one of the highlights of my life.
Wow.
Yeah. My goodness.
Oh my God.
I'll tell you my other. I have one other great Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney's birthday is coming up in 3 days, and I don't know if you guys see my Facebook page, but I'll post about him. I'll post these stories, but I'll give them to you early. My other Paul McCartney is in 1984. I was on a show called Punky Brewster at NBC.
Yes, you
And
were.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And there was this wonderful guy in the show named George Gaines. He was this distinguished actor. Hello, Eddie. Hello, Punky. There was this real distinguished actor. He was a great guy. And he goes, Eddie, you're a Beatles fan, aren't you? That's what I heard. I go, yeah, George Gaines. He goes, I got your 2 tickets to see Paul McCartney on the Tonight Show. It was like the next night. I'm like, George, are you serious? I could have kissed the guy, you know. So he got me 2 tickets. I took a friend. We saw Paul McCartney on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Anyway, after the show, Paul comes out in a sports car. He's leaving the studio, and we all converge like a hard day's night. You know, like 200 fans. We surrounded his car. I touched Paul on the shoulder. He rolled down his window, and I was right there close. And I touched the Beatle. I touched Paul on the shoulder. Now we were all there, and then Paul had to leave. He had a lady in the car, by the way. I think it was probably his wife, Linda, but there was a lady. I don't remember who it was, but Paul was there with a woman, and it was a little sports car. Anyway, as Paul's driving off, I felt this crushing weight on my foot. It felt like an elephant stepped on my foot, like Chris Christie stepped on my foot. Smash! It smacked my foot. It felt like it broke my foot. I think to this day, he drove his car over my foot. I think he just was speeding. It was a little mini car. It didn't break my foot. It drove over the front end of my foot. So I'm not sure, but I think Paul McCartney drove over my foot, and then he just drove off.
Wow.
Now, funny you bring up the driving habits of somebody of Paul McCartney in the car. Do you believe that Paul McCartney died in a car crash in the 70s, and the Paul McCartney that you saw was just an actor?
No, definitely not. That's an old rumor. That was 1969. It was a false rumor. Thank God. This is what I know about. This is what I figure about Paul McCartney. This is my own realization about the guy. And take this in and assimilate it. I think this is true. It's mind-boggling when you really think about it. When you think of the billions and billions and billions of people that have lived, I think Paul McCartney has brought more joy and happiness to the world than any other human being, more than any religious figure, more than any sports figure, more than any arts figure, anything. If you figure with him and the Beatles, how many people he's made happy. Whereas religious people, of course, have brought a lot of happiness, but they brought a lot of, there's been unhappiness with religion too. There's always been dissenters, but with Paul, it's pretty much been all happiness. He's just brought joy to the world for 50 or 60 years now.
Yeah.
And nobody can compare to his record. Certainly no athlete has done it, and nobody in showbiz has done it for as long as Paul. And the songs will just go on.
Right.
He's kind of like Shakespeare, these songs will just go on forever. They're so beautiful.
Now you say this, Eddie, but I have to I have to talk about a little bit about this.
Sure.
I'm gonna spew off a list here. Dexter's Laboratory,
right.
Oswald, Codename Kids Next Door, Kim Possible, Scooby-Doo, SpongeBob SquarePants, Fairly Odd Parents, Johnny Bravo, Our Real Monsters, Goof Troop.
Right.
All these titles have to do with you, my friend.
Yes. Yeah.
You played voices in every. So first of all, I just want to thank you for being a huge part of my childhood.
Oh, it's so my pleasure. If I brought you happiness, that makes me so happy, really. That's why we do it.
Oh, man. Well, we just talked about before the show that you were the voice, major voice of Dexter's Laboratory.
Yeah,
I
did 20 episodes.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, as a voice actor, what was the most important role to you? You talk about Paul McCartney leaving an impact on people. What was the most important role to you and what you believe left an impact on others? Maybe it was a family member, maybe it was a friend.
Is this just voiceovers you want to talk about?
Yeah, voiceovers.
Does this count Polar Express?
Sure.
Yeah.
Polar Express, definitely. The effect of Polar Express. I always, even though I'm Jewish, it had always been on my bucket list. I swear, Christmas is my favorite holiday. Even though I'm Jewish, I just love Christmas. I'm a Christmas fan.
Yeah,
I love to this day, even though we were all on computers, I love sending out Christmas cards. I'll send out 100 Christmas cards to my friends. And I just love Christmas. I love the spirit. I love Christmas carols and I love the time of year. And I'd always had my bucket list. I wanted to do a Christmas movie. And so anyway, Bob Zemeckis directed me and I Want to Hold Your Hand. And then he wrote me into the Polar Express movie he's doing called The Polar Express.
Oh,
now, if you see, the Polar Express is based on a book by Chris Van Allsworth. Yeah, it's a book. It's about 18 pages. It's a beautiful little book.
Eddie,
my character's not even in the book. Eddie,
I'm going to interrupt you real quick because this is such you are such a big part of my family's life. And I just want to explain real quick.
Sure.
When my sister and I were kids, every Christmas morning, my parents would invite us before we could go open presents. We would all come in and lay down in their bed, and we would read the Polar Express, the Polar Express book.
Yeah,
and it came with a little. Yeah, it came with a little bell. So we were so excited when they announced that this Polar Express movie was coming out.
Yeah.
To this day, every Christmas season, my mom, my stepdad, my sister, my brother-in-law, my niece, my nephew, all my kids, my wife, we all spend the night at my house and we do a Polar Express sleepover party where
Oh,
we
cool.
watch the Polar Express. When
And
the
you have
hot
cocoa.
chocolate song comes on, we
Yes.
pause it, we make
Very
hot
cool.
chocolate. So you are part of my Christmas tradition, which is why I was so excited to have you on this podcast, not because of Grease, but because of Polar Express. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, you're very kind. It's so gracious. You thank you. And it's a beautiful story. I'm so glad I helped cause that. That's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, Scott, you
Yes.
watch Polar Express every year.
Every year.
Probably multiple times. You probably watched it every night before you go to bed. Now, there's Tom Hanks, but
Right.
who's the second most notable voice in that movie, Scott?
There was, okay, here's where the kind of the screw job came in. Peter Scolari, who do you guys remember Bosom Buddies with Tom Hanks and Peter Scolari, the show?
Yes.
The two guys in drag. That was the lonely boy. That was Peter Scolari. I don't know. I was talking to Stevie, my manager, about it like yesterday. So for some reason they didn't use his voice. It's me, Tom. There's four of us, the four main guys. It's Tom Hanks, me, Peter Scolari was the other one, and for some reason they used. And the girl, the pretty girl, the hero girl, the African American girl, is Nona Gay, who is Marvin Gaye's daughter. You know.
Wow, no, I did not know that.
Yeah,
wow.
That's the four of us in there. For some reason, we all did it there. The kids are based on our movements. It's a thing called motion capture. It was an incredible procedure. Every day, the four of us would put on skin diver suits, like those rubber skin diving suits. They would glue a skin diving cap to our head. Literally, I'm not kidding. And they would take a marker and mark 152 dots on our face. I swear. Then they take these little lights and glued 152 lights to our heads. I swear to God. And then they'd shine this kind of a ray on us, and that's how they got our movements.
That's incredible.
After we did our scenes, they had four little kids. They had a little kid Tom, little kid me, a little kid Peter, a little kid Don, and they would do the same scene with their arms and move it like us. And somehow they morphed us into kids' bodies. Don't ask me how, but that was the technology 20 years ago. Now it's probably technology moves so fast. It's probably much easier now. But this was the first motion capture film. Wow. So you hear our voices. It's me, Tom, and Nona. But for some reason they didn't use Peter's voice, which I never figured. That's a different voice, but it's Peter's movements. But it's four little kids. But it's Peter kind of got screwed.
Wow. So Eddie, who did the voice of the hero boy? Because IMDb has it credited to Daryl Sabra. I always thought it was Josh Hutcherson.
Oh, it could be either one. I'm not sure. I don't know his name, but he was a very nice guy. But it could be either one. I'm so sorry. I don't know. I don't even know who did my voice, who did my body stuff.
Well, they've got both on IMDb. Both are credited for the voice. So I don't know if it was like an Olsen twin.
Oh, yeah.
Just flip them in.
You're right. No. God, you're right, because they didn't use Tom's voice. You're right. It was another kid, but Tom did have other roles. Tom played 5 roles in it.
Right.
But you're right. It was the only of the main 4 characters was only me and Nona that used our voice. That's really my voice, and it's really Nona's. But you're right. For some reason, they didn't use Tom and Peter, which I don't know why.
Yeah, it's strange because there's 2 voices credited, or there's 2 actors credited for the voice of the hero boy, and I've just always wondered that.
Yeah, I wonder why they died. I don't know. Tom played 4 characters, and I'll tell you Tom played, of course, the hobo on the train. He played Santa Claus. He played the conductor, and technically he played the hero boy because that was his movements. Tom was we filmed it for 10 weeks, and every day I worked with Tom and we did those movements together. And he played he plays the father at the beginning of the film. He's the father. So Tom has 5 roles. Now I'll tell you my brush with greatness. When we were doing it, Tom was real close with Marlon Brando. They were real close pals. Wow. And they wanted him for the hobo on top of the train to play that role. And this was close to Marlon Brando's passing. This was the last year of his life. And Tom goes, he was really, really sick. Tom goes, we really want you for this movie. It's called The Polar Express. We want you to play the hobo on the train. We're going to give you cue cards. We'll make it so easy. We'll knock it off in a couple hours. Please, can you just come and do it? But Marlon was just too sick. And then he died a couple months later. But if he had done it, I could have been in the film with Marlon Brando. I could have met Marlon Brando. So that was my brush with greatness for that one. And then Tom took the role,
Well, okay, hold on. You're saying that was almost your. You were in a movie with Tom Hanks. Yeah. Tom Hanks is one of the most iconic actors of our time.
He's my favorite actor of all time. I'll tell you, this is true story. My 2 favorite actors of our generation, maybe all time. I like the old time comedians the best, but of the actors of our generation, my 2 favorites, I swear to God, are Tom Hanks, John Travolta. And those are 2 I got to do films with both of them. So I lucked out.
Wow.
My first thing on the set, I didn't even know. He just hired me. Bob Zemeckis knew me from I Want to Hold Your Hand. So he wrote me into the film. So luckily I didn't have to go through the audition process. So my agent just calls, Bob Zemeckis wants to direct in this film called Polar Express. And I go, of course, I love Bob's the best director I ever worked with. He's my favorite director. So I come on the set the first day. I didn't know Hanks was in it. And the first day, and Bob goes, we're doing this new thing called motion capture. And he showed me the film of it. And the voice of it showed this weird movement. It was a guy's, I go, that sounds like Tom Hanks. So anyway, I go, that sounds like Tom Hanks. He goes, yeah, Tom Hanks is the star of the movie. So I'm about to have a conniption, Are you serious? So anyway, there's like 100 of us lined up on the set. He goes, you'll love Tom. He's like a big kid. So Tom Hanks comes bouncing in the room. He comes up to me first. I swear to God. He shakes my hand. Hi, Eddie. I'm Tom. I go, no shit, Sherlock. Are you? This guy is such a nice guy. And I have like 100 Tom Hanks stories. Every day was a new story with this guy. He's just with the sweetest, nicest guy. Anyway, the closest I can say is he's like a big kid. He's like, I remember seeing him on the set and he was dressed as Santa Claus. You know, for the Santa Claus stuff, he had to get in the Santa Claus suit. And I go, that's really you. I go, you're really Santa Claus. I go, you were probably Santa Claus in another life. You are just Santa Claus. Because he lives to make people happy. That's all he does.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, this is a great Tom Hanks story, and I'll sum him up in this story. This is what he is. I was talking to him on the set one day, because the joy of it was every morning, we, you know, before you start shooting, there's free time, and every day I could get kibitz with Tom, so I could ask him anything, and he'd answer it. So one day I was asking about Jackie Gleason, and I go, you did that movie, Nothing in Common with Jackie Gleason. I love The Honeymooners. What was he like? And Tom goes, oh, Jackie was great. You know, he's a total professional. You know, he knew his lines. He was always on time. He always hit his mark. And, you know, he was there every day and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, I go, that's interesting. So I go off, I'm talking to Peter Solari. I go, you know, it's funny. I was just talking to Tom about Jackie Gleason. He said what a great guy he is and how much fun it was to work with him. And Peter goes, you know, that's just like Tom. He goes, Jackie Gleason was an asshole to him. He goes, Jackie Gleason was mean and rude to him. He goes, Tom was not a big star then. And Jackie was very arrogant. You know, he like was very rude to Tom. He wasn't nice to him. He didn't treat him well. He goes, but Tom will not say anything bad about anybody. No matter who, he refuses to say a bad word about anybody. And that's Tom Hanks. That's the kind of heart he has. He just won't say anything bad about anybody.
Wow.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me at all. At all.
Yeah. The way he seems is him. And the same with John Travolta. You just look at him and you know, this is a really, really nice guy. This is a total mensch. And that's the way John Travolta is. Same thing.
Wow. So Eddie, and this is kind of an off the wall question. You know, obviously you were cast in Grease as kind of the nerdy character and all that.
Right.
Did you ever have a relationship with the late great Dustin Diamond, who played Screech Powers in Saved by the Bell?
I did, but this is a true story. I swear to God, and I think you're the first podcast I've ever done that got into this. I was hired for that role first. I was the original Screech, but I didn't want to do the show. But I auditioned to do the show with Haley Mills. It was called Miss Bliss or something.
Yeah, Good Morning, Miss Bliss. Yes,
I was supposed to when they went, and I just didn't like the script, and I didn't want to do it. And then he got it, but I turned that role down. That's a true story.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's I didn't know because I know that he had a lot of issues with you know, just getting bullied and all that with being typecast into that role, and I didn't know if you had the opportunity to mentor him as you know, a more experienced actor or anything. That's why I asked the question. But that's
I didn't. I've never met Dustin. You know, he seems like a really nice guy, but I've never met him. But yeah, he had good success with that role. Made a good career out of it. Yeah,
very, very true, and unfortunately gone too soon.
Yeah. When did he pass on up? I don't even remember. I'm so sorry.
Gosh, 3 years ago. I believe it was lung cancer 2-3 years ago.
Oh, he was a smoker?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's terrible. I was in the hospital, you know, with my heart trouble for 3 years, 2.5 years on, 2 or 3 years on and off. And so I missed so many, and so many people passed on, including, of course, Olivia passed on when I was in the hospital, Gilbert Gottfried, a lot of people I love.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was horrible, but that was a terrible time in my life. And we just lost a lot of people, sadly. And of course, there was the pandemic. So there was just terrible years.
Horrible.
So speaking of time in the hospital, and we'll briefly, I want to give you an opportunity because you unfortunately were in the news for some negativity. You know, everybody loves a good headline. Grease star arrested.
Call me by my rap name, the Notorious Eddie D. That's what they call me. Yeah. I'm one of those thugs, you know. Yeah.
So. I wanted to give you kind of an opportunity to kind of share, because I know your truth and I know what happened. I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of, you know, discuss that as much length as you feel comfortable with.
Sure. You're very kind and very gracious. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I was born with a heart murmur, which means a heart murmur. There was a valve in my heart that wasn't connected to it. People's hearts, you know, usually go lub dub, lub dub, lub dub. You know, that's a normal heart. My heart for my whole life went stub, 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 because that valve was not connected. Doctors would listen to my heart. They go, that's a really severe heart murmur you have. But, you know, my dad had a heart murmur. John F. Kennedy had a heart murmur. Jerry Lewis had a heart murmur. And you just live, you know, you can live your life with them. Anyway, I would live my life and it never caused me any trouble. Around 2019, I started feeling weird. I was doing signing shows and all. I was starting to feel woozy and dizzy out of it. And I got really scared. I thought I was dying. What was happening was the valve had come totally out. Oh, wow. There was blood leaking into my brain. literally from that hard. It was, I don't know if it would have been fatal, but I think it probably would have been fatal. There was blood leaking in my brain. I was feeling woozy, you know? So anyway, in early 2020, it was January 6th, 2020, I was rushed to Ruby Memorial Hospital in West Virginia. They did emergency open heart surgery on me.
Wow.
I remember clearly, I was in bed and a nurse said, she goes, we're going to get a helicopter and fly you out. And, you know, I don't remember a lot of that period because I was so drugged up for those 3 years.
Right.
But they had the emergency surgery. Then I got a bad break. My heart got infected after that. And then I got another bad break. I had a bad stroke. So I had really a bad triple whammy. And the nurse said, by all rights, you should be dead. After the stroke, I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk, I couldn't eat, and I couldn't sleep. Literally I was as close to death as you could imagine. So anyway, I had lived my whole life pretty much drug-free. I don't believe in drugs. I'm like a Christian Scientist. I don't even take aspirin. But they put me on a regimen of like 20 pills, which obviously some I need, but they put me on a horrible antidepressant called Xanax, which is powerful, and it's mind altering. And I didn't know they had me on this. I would never have agreed to because I don't believe in that stuff. They put me on that, and I was really freaked out, and I started doing really bad, and I started, you know, going roller coaster really bad and worse. I was released from the hospital. I started doing some crazy stuff. I'll look back at my old Facebook posts from that period, like early 2021, and I put these posts that were just, you know, my mind was just insane. I had a thing, this really happens. I was at a restaurant in Cumberland, Maryland, and they didn't want to admit me. They didn't want to make, because I was causing trouble around town, getting into trouble, and they didn't want to admit me. So they were chasing me around this Chinese restaurant. The police were there, and the police were chasing me around, and I literally threw plates at the police. This really,
oh my gosh.
With a friend of mine at the hospital said, he said, if they have that on surveillance film, it's got to be one of the greatest restaurant surveillance films of all time. Running around being chased and throwing plates at cops. But that literally happened. Anyway, throwing plates at the police, of course, is second-degree assault. So I was put into jail for a month for that. And then I was put into a hospital, it was a Dickensian, horrible, horrible hospital. And the nurses were nice, but it was a horrible hospital for 8 months. I was with these 19 other guys, and, you know, we made friends, but these were some tough guys. These were drug addicts and really tough prisoners. These were hardcore guys, you know, and I was there for 8 months. So it was really hard. Anyway, I finally got out. Steve, my manager, and his beautiful wife, Denise, took me in, and I've been living at their home for 5 months now. They're my guardians, and they have been so wonderful. Steve's like my brother, and Denise is the nicest lady in the world. They've just been wonderful to me. So I'm very happy here, and that chapter's over in my life. But it was a horrible chapter. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Chris.
I know. I just had a quick question. Now,
Sure.
We talked a little bit about religion early in there, but we don't want to get deep into religion. But
please,
when you
I don't mind metaphysical questions at all.
Yeah, when you Google Eddie Deezen, you find Eddie Deezen Scientology. Is that
right.
is that some rumor? Or
no, I was in for several years earlier.
Really?
Obviously, because Scientology is very, very anti-drugs. Because I was given all those drugs, I'm not eligible. It's not a cruel thing, but that's their policy. Because I took all those psychiatric drugs, I'm not eligible anymore. So I'm pretty much gone. But I had nothing but only good experience with it. I knew Nancy Cartwright. John, of course, when I did Grease, John was the first Scientologist I ever met. And I thought it was weird. I go, these Scientologists are weird. And I met John, and I go, this is the nicest guy I've ever met. He's so cool. So that was my first thing that got my interest. And I was in for several years, and it really did help me and made me a more ethical person, a better person. And it just helped me in a lot of ways, but I'm not in anymore. I've been out for like several years now because of that.
I do want to elaborate on that just a bit, because Scientology gets a bad rep. Nobody understands it. Nobody. Right. So you're saying that Scientology helped you as a crutch, basically, so that you would stray away from drug use. Is it so you wouldn't be on these painkillers, or
it wasn't that? Just
not like hard drugs, but painkillers after the surgery. What? How?
No, I wasn't into drugs for that long time. They didn't get me off the drugs. They got me. I was put on the drugs. I pulled myself off that.
I see. Gotcha.
I had to get myself off those drugs. It was horrible, and it was an ordeal.
Gotcha.
Because you can imagine, from going to no drugs for my whole life to 20 a day. My friend Mary Ellen knew a nurse that was taking care of me. She said this nurse said they had these 20 pills litter they were putting. I didn't even know that because I hardly remember the period. I was so blacked out on Xanax, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, that's really the blackout part of my period is the last 3 years. I only remember sporadic thing. Steve would go, do you remember I picked you up at the airport and we went to a site? I don't remember any of that. This stuff just blinks out. But Scientology they're very big on ethics, honesty, truth. And I'll be honest, in my early career, I was a shoplifter. I would go to shops and steal stuff just to make money, just as a goof. I didn't think it was serious. I would go and steal books. You know, they have the alarms at the bookstores now. But when I was first in Hollywood in the 70s, I would steal books. I'd put them under my shirt, and then I go sell them. You know, just stuff like that. You know, just non-ethical things, going out with the wrong girls, not being honest with people. Scientology is very, very big on ethics, but Jerry Seinfeld was in it. And
That's
he said the
interesting.
ethics of it,
Wow.
the ethics of it is really, really good part that I think can help anybody. They just believe if you're a really ethical person, it leads to an ethical life. And when these really,
Fascinating.
really unhappy people, really straighten your ethics out and it will make you happier. And I found that's true.
Oh, that's really interesting. It's something a religion I know nothing about. And
Yeah,
when researching you, it came up and I was like, wow, I'd love to ask him a little bit about that and
yeah,
your
yeah,
experience with that. That's very
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Now, Eddie, I heard a rumor that you pushed a car off a cliff. Can you
Yes,
can,
it's a
can you
true
tell me
story.
about that?
Okay, I knew this. We used to play poker all the time together. We used to have weekly poker game. Actors, we have all this free time. So we play poker. We play poker through the night, me and my pals. We had this guy who was like a real crook. His name was Jim Steen. He would we called him the fish. He was the world's worst poker player and he was a real dick, but he was not an honest guy. Anyway, for some reason, we went to Las Vegas together, me, Steen, and the guy named Paul Nagel. We went together and Jimmy, for some reason, I gave him $3,000. He talked me into it and I said, win us some money. So he proceeded, of course, to lose all the money. I was furious, and all that. And he never paid me back. So I kept, harping on, where's my money? Finally, he says, look, I own this Alfa Romeo. I'm going to give it to you for the 3,000. I know nothing about cars. My friend Freddie said, that's a good deal. Alfa Romeo is a great sports car. It's easily worth that. Fine. So he gave me this Alfa Romeo. He stopped it and gives it to me. Anyway, what I didn't know is he owed another guy a debt. He gave him the pink slip. So in other words, I had the car with no pink slip. The other guy had a pink slip with no car. So they're each worthless, but he paid off 2 debts technically. And then I never saw him again. So I was so pissed off. I was furious. I have this car that's worth nothing. We lived in a building on Hollywood and Edgemont, off Hollywood and Edgemont, called New Hollywood Hotel and Apartments. No, it was on Edgemont. I'm sorry. That was another place, but it's on Edgemont. There was like a little cliff behind the parking lot there. So we took the car, my friends and I, we started it and we pushed it over the cliff. It was like maybe 15 or 10 foot, and it went down. There's like the woods and trees. We pushed it down in the woods and trees there. It might still be there. I was so mad. The car was no use. See, when you don't have the pink slip, you can't even sell it for junk, because nobody will take. You have to have a pink slip. So it was worthless, iron.
Oh
So
my
I lost an
gosh.
Alfa Romeo, but yeah, I can't drive anyway. So
Eddie, I just want to just randomly say this, but not only are you the most interesting interview that we've had thus far, you're probably the most interesting person I've ever talked to in my whole life.
oh, thank you. That's very kind of you.
I feel like this short time we've had together so far is like not even a drop in the bucket of all the interesting and amazing stories that you have
Yeah,
to
I have.
offer.
Okay, you want to hear a new one? What's your story? This one happened 2 days ago. Okay, I swear to God,
Please.
it's a true story. This is another weird story. When I first came to Hollywood, I came to Hollywood, and my anniversary was June 13th, 1975. That was the day I went to high school, and I went the next day after high school. I wanted to get out of Cumberland, Maryland so bad. So I flew
Okay.
out to Hollywood on the 12th. I arrived on Friday the 13th, 75. Anyway, my first meal in Hollywood, I'm at a drugstore on the corner of Hollywood and Highland. So I'm eating there. I look down at my feet. There's a $5 bill there. So I pick up the $5 bill. There's a guy next to me. I go, sir, did you lose this? He goes, no. So I go, oh boy, I found $5. This is lucky. I put it in my pocket. This is a great start in a new city. Anyway, my anniversary was yesterday, 48 years later. So I had to get some laundry detergent. So Stevie goes, I'll take you to Walmart. So Stevie and I went to Walmart. We bought some detergent. I bought a can of beef stew. So we're walking out the parking lot. I look down, there's a $5 bill there. So I found a $5 bill. 48 years later, I found $5. Again, that's totally true. Look on my Facebook page. There's a picture of me with that $5 bill. It's a weird,
Wow.
strange coincidence. It's got to be a Ripley's Believe It or Not.
That's
Wow.
amazing. That's
Sarah,
so
you
funny.
pick up a lot of bills and
Yeah,
coins
yeah.
and stuff, right, Sarah?
When
Yeah,
I
yeah.
see him, I
Oh,
pick
yeah.
him up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I pick them up. Sure.
Sarah, do you have any questions for Eddie?
Are you guys getting together for Greece? Do you ever get together
We
for
have
these
many times.
anniversaries?
Yes, Sarah, we've done many in the past. Now, Barry is doing one. Now, Barry is I think he's in Australia right now. Go to Barry Pearl's Facebook page. He was due to, one of the T-Birds. You can see him. He's in Australia drinking a big beer. He's in Melbourne. I think he's doing a one-man show, doing Q&A. So he's gone. But to answer your question, we've done many over the years. We've had many reunions at signing shows, Chiller Theater. It's been, not John and Olivia. They're too big for it. But the rest of us, of course, sadly, Jeff and Cha-Cha, Annette Cardona passed away in 2011, which I loved them both, and they went. But we did shows with Jeff, and sadly, his last shows, he was in a wheelchair. Jeff had 9 back operations. He had a fall in Greece, and he became a bad drug addict because of the fall, because of the pain. He's taking painkillers, and he was like decrepit in his last few years. And if you look at Greece, he's like this Greek Adonis. This Greek, a male animal, I would do shows with him, and he was gnarled over, in a wheelchair, and I would wheel him around, and the girls would still giggle over him. Oh, it's Nicky. They were still seeing the guy from Greece, but he looked like he was about 96 years old. He's the poor guy, but he's the same sweet guy. Eddie, do you want a soda? Eddie, can I get you anything? Eddie, you should charge more for your picture. He was like my big brother, but I would take him. He had to go to the bathroom. I would wheel him in his wheelchair, Kaniki, and then he passed away. And Annette, Cha-Cha, I hardly knew her on the set. I talked to her like one time, but then we had one of our, we'd have get-togethers just as parties. We'd have reunions, all of us would go. And I got to know her at a party once we were driving there, and it happened. She and I got paired up. And we talked in the car today, and I got to know her, and we really became friends for that one time. And I saw what a beautiful person she was. We told each other our life stories, and then unfortunately, she died shortly after that. She died of lung cancer. She never smoked a cigarette in her life, but she died of lung cancer.
Oh,
that's like there was someone, Christopher Reeve's wife.
Really, same thing.
Yeah, same thing. Died of lung cancer. Never smoked a cigarette in her.
Yeah,
it's terrible. And then meanwhile, I'm a pack a day smoker, and I'm doing just fine.
You're in good health.
It doesn't.
It's all subjective. Who knows?
Yeah.
There's some guys. Life is so crazy. Some guys will smoke 4 packs a day and they'll live to 96. And then you see these guys will do exercise and they'll kill over at 30 and die. You don't know.
Absolutely.
We just kind of, we do the best we can. You try to go with the odds and do the best you can. But it's so capricious. You don't know how the universe works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eddie, is there anything you're working on now? Anything coming up for you?
No, just, we've been doing, there's not a lot to do. I'm in South Carolina. It's wonderful. I'd love to get back into movies eventually. We want to get back into signing shows. I've been doing signing shows for like 30 years. I've been doing it since the 80s. I was sick, and in the hospital, and the pandemic came. But Stevie's trying to get me back into the signing shows, the Comic Cons I love doing. We do a thing called, we're doing cameo videos, which we do about several a week. We do like
I've watched some of yours. They're very entertaining.
Yeah, they're so much fun, and you make people happy. Eddie, can you wish my wife happy anniversary? We'll do pep talks. You go, Eddie, can you give me a pep talk? We had the last one. He goes, I'm a young director and I'm nervous. I'm scared. Can you give me a pep talk?
Oh,
and
cool.
I gave him a pep talk. I said, we need artists like you. Da da da. We'll say happy bar mitzvah. We've had, do your Mandark laugh. Can you tell me some stories about Greece? And Stevie and I have done like probably at least 100 since I've been here. So we like doing those to make people happy. So if you want one, go to just Google cameo videos, punch into Eddie Deezen. They're $30, but they're a great gift. You have them the rest of your life, and I'll do anything you want on them. Say, as long as it's clean, decent. I don't take off my clothes, but anything else I'll do.
That's extra. That's extra.
We're trying to get Sarah into that.
Stevie's a great cameraman. Stevie's a great cameraman, and he photographs for me. And Stevie kind of directs me. He goes, "Okay, do it this way." Say it. And he's a good director, so we get.
Oh, cool. We'll put the link to your cameo in the description of this episode.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
And are you at the Bedford Film Festival also?
No, when is that?
Okay, we're gonna cut that out. That's in July. Sorry,
Stevie's working on so many projects. Maybe he's working on so many things. Maybe that's one of them. He's trying to get me back into Chiller Theater and stuff. So I'd love to do that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Is Bedford just straight film? Is it straight films or what?
It's a film festival in Virginia. Laura Willoughby runs that.
Films.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't do my films if it's independent, right?
Right, but she's got a lot of like Claudia Wells from Back to the Future, Jeremy Miller,
okay,
kind of Steve Circle are going to be there, so that's why.
Okay, I love doing that. Stevie is so good, and he's on the phone constantly all day, so he's probably working on it. I hope I can do it.
Yeah. Chris, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, Steve. Steve. You keep saying the name Steve, and your name is Steve on the Zoom. Eddie, so I have to ask you this. So I ask every celebrity interview that we do, who is the smelliest, good or bad, actor or actress that you've ever encountered in your
smelliest?
Yeah, good or bad. You could say good or bad.
Let me try to think. I'm going to give you an honest answer. I don't remember. I made out with two cool ones. They both were great. Good breath. They didn't smell. I made out with Morgan Fairchild and Tanya Harding, but they both smelled good. I made out with Tanya Harding. I did a Comic-Con. There's a great show in New Jersey called Chiller Theater. I don't know if you know, but it's the best signing show in the world. So this about 20 years ago, when Tanya had her thing with Nancy Kerrigan, she hired her, knocked her in the knee.
I heard about that.
Yeah, guest at Chiller. Yeah, and at this time, Tanya was looked on as like a villain. She was like not the degree of O.J. Simpson, but she was, she was looked on as a villain.
Close.
So she didn't.
That's the thing. That's the thing. O.J. allegedly kills someone. No big deal. Tanya Harding took out America's Sweetheart's knees.
Exactly.
She was the biggest villain at the time.
Yeah, they hired. O.J. Simpson and Robert Blake have both done signing shows. They're both murderers, ostensibly murderers. Tanya was hard, so they don't really care. They just want to make a buck, and they go, these guys will get a draw. And people will, ask for their autographs. But at this one, Tanya didn't have any customers that I saw. Maybe she got a few, but she was pretty much alone. So I felt sorry for her, and I went over and we started talking. And we just hit it off, and nature took us. We were talking and we just started kissing. We started, like any guy and a girl, and we just started making, and she's a great kisser. She's wonderful. Soft lips. She kisses perfect. And we were making out like crazy, Anyway, we finished the show and I gave her my signed picture and we said goodbye and it was a beautiful experience. Anyway, this big mafia guy, the thug comes up about 70. Hey, Tanya wants one of your pictures. So I signed a picture. This guy's going to break my knuckles if I don't give her a picture. So I signed a picture and gave it to her. It was a beautiful experience. Yeah,
I'd say. I'd say.
Yeah, my Morgan Fairchild, real quick. I did a movie called Mob Boss, which it's a good B movie comedy. If you can ever stream that or get a copy, it's a really. My sister said it's my funniest movie I ever did, but it's a B comedy. I'm a gangster, a mob guy, and Morgan Fairchild is like my gun mall. But anyway, Morgan was like very sweet and she was always alone. We'd all have lunch together, all the cast crew. And Morgan would always have lunch in her dressing room alone. She was sweet and maybe shy. And she, she's a star. She's probably used to not having lunch with the rest of us. But anyway, one day she goes, Eddie, do you want to have lunch with me? So, of course, being a guy, I'm thinking, this is summer of 42. I'm going to bed her down. She wants to have sex with me, I'm going to have an affair with Morgan Fairchild. So I was nervous all day. Oh, my God, I'm going to disappoint her, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I knocked on the door. She goes, come on. So she wanted to have lunch. So we sit and we have lunch. The lunch was served and she told me her whole life story. It was one of the most beautiful lunches I ever had. She just talked. She just wanted to talk. And she told me about Warren Beatty and her whole life and growing up in Texas and blah, blah, blah. And she told me her whole life for like an hour and a half. It was a beautiful lunch. She was a beautiful, special lady. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and she
amazing.
Lost having, her loss, she didn't get to have sex with me. So she's the one who lost.
All right, some rapid fire questions for you before we finish this up. What are your must-haves on the craft service table?
Let me see. Okay, I'll tell you my must not have. My food buttons. Here's my biggest food button. Like everyone has one they can't eat absolutely. Stevie he hates tomatoes. He will not eat tomatoes. Mine is red or purple onions. I just can't stand. I like the white onions when we grew up. I like the regular onions, but I hate red or purple onions. So I will not eat them. If they get in my food, I won't. If they put them in my salad, I won't eat the salad no matter how hungry.
You never know when you're going to make out with Tanya Harding.
Yes, exactly.
You can't be eating onions.
Right. I can't stand that. What I like to have, let me see. I can eat pretty much anything except that. That's my biggest button, I think. What I have to have is I don't really mind. Nothing's, as long as the food's good, as long as it's edible. Yeah. I'm not a big hot dog fan.
Low maintenance.
Yeah. Pretty low maintenance. But I like good food. Like Polar Express, we had really good food. That was like a great, thing. I've done B movies where you get like, crackers and cheese or like hamburgers from McDonald's. And then you go to a big production and they have pretty good craft services, really good meals.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Favorite project that you ever worked on? Favorite project?
It would be, I'd say Polar Express has to be up there. Grease would be up there because Grease was my first. Polar Express, Grease, so many of them. So many movies have just been a joy. I Want to Hold Your Hand because Steven Spielberg, of course, 1941 because of Steven Spielberg, the honor of being directed with him, and the pleasure knowing John Belushi, who was the sweetest guy in the world, working with him.
Wow.
So that was a joy. War Games was great. War Games, I'll tell you a story. We changed American history with War Games. The movie I did, War Games, I worked one day, but it changed the course of American history. Okay, War Games is about tapping into computers. Did you guys see War Games?
I have not, but I know of it.
See War Games. It's a good film, but you can see my scene on YouTube, by the way. Just put Eddie Deezen in War Games, but they'll show my scene. I only did one scene. But anyway, we did the scene that's about tapping into computers. Computers in those days are like as big as a room, And I was the first, in that movie, I became the first computer nerd. A lady put a headline paper, Eddie Deezen's created this new character, the computer nerd. And that was the first one. Anyway, Ronald Reagan, the president in those days, screened War Games in the White House. And he got scared. He goes, my God, the Russians can steal our secrets. They can tap into our security system. So because he saw War Games, Ronald Reagan changed the security system of the United States because he saw War Games. He went to the head of U.S. security and had it changed, whatever the code or whatever. He had it changed and more tough to get into. But
that's incredible.
That's true story. True story.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right.
Yeah.
Any routines or superstitions before filming?
Let me see. Superstition. That's a great question. I always, I'm trying to think. I want to give you an honest answer. Not really. I like to try to get to know everybody. I have a rule. I'd like to try to meet all the cast crew, call them by their, I now realize this rule about life, call people by their names. This is what I realized. I realized when I was early on the set, when you say hi, people, it's okay. But when you say hi with their name, it makes all the difference in the world. So this is a rule about life. You go hi, you go hi. I go hi to you, hi. But if I go hi, Chris, hi, Scott, hi, Sarah,
Mhm.
it means 100% more. That it's kind of like a Dale Carnegie rule. But I realized that on the movie sets, I would go in and I'd love the people and I go hi, good morning. But if I go good morning, Bill, good morning, Mary, they'll brighten up. So a rule in life is use people's names. So I always try to use that on the set.
And I've noticed that about you. I've talked to you on the phone
Yeah.
a couple times, and
Yeah,
I've noticed about you. You're always hi Scott, hi Scott.
yeah.
So and
I like
you're
doing that.
absolutely
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, the people I love, and you know, most people are good. I've worked with a few dicks over the years, but very few. Most of the people are very nice. The big stars I've met, unequivocally, all the big stars are nice. The only ones you have trouble with are the losers, you know, the small timers. I've worked with a few of them. I
Right.
didn't like, but you just go. The privilege we have is, in other words, a movie or a TV show or a voiceover. If you work with a dick, it's only a week or a day, you're gone. You feel sorry for these people that have a regular job and they have a dick boss, you know, or a jerk, you know, they have to work and they're stuck with this guy for, you know, years or whatever, or their life. But in movies and showbiz, everything's pretty much transitory, unless you're doing a regular TV series. But everything's pretty transitory. You do a movie and you finish it and you never see him again.
Now, Eddie, first of all, I just want to compliment you on your Dale Carnegie reference, one of my favorite books of all time, How to Win Friends and Influence People. One of the best
Okay,
books
well,
of all
you're
time,
a very nice guy. You probably apply that. Yeah,
all the time.
yeah.
Last rapid fire.
Sure.
Closest friend in film or TV?
Tom was a close friend and all. We finished Polar Express. I worked with him for 10 weeks, remember? So we became pretty tight and I got to talk to him every day. We finished the movie, okay? The last day, he goes, Eddie, I hear you're a baseball fan. Yeah, he goes, do you want to come to a Dodger game with me? So he took me to 3 Dodger games. Tom Hanks. Anyway, I got to tell you this quick story. I used to have a friend named Tommy. He was my best friend. Tommy was my best pal. He wasn't an actor, but he sadly had Lou Gehrig's disease, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. His body, I don't know if you know Lou Gehrig, but his body was slowly, his motor controls were fading and his body became worse. And it's a fatal disease. It shuts down your motor controls and you die. Tommy knew he was going to eventually suffocate and die that way. So he has to live with that. He was this real good looking guy. He had a sports car, and then he realized he had Lou Gehrig's disease, and he couldn't walk. I got used to catching him. When he started to walk, he couldn't walk, and we would walk down the street, and I got used to he would fall, and I'd catch him. He was a big guy, and I knew when to get him, and I'd catch him. And he couldn't talk. When he first started talking, he noticed he was spitting my food. Go, hey Eddie, don't. I go, why do you spit like that? And I realized he didn't do it. He just couldn't control it, and he would spit. So he was ruining my food, you know. So I want to eat up, put a cloth in front of him, you know. Okay, Tom, but the poor guy couldn't help it. Anyway, Tom said you can bring a friend to the game. Tom Hanks said that. So I go, okay, I'm going to bring my friend Tommy. And then I brought Tommy there. And Tommy, you know, he would drive because I can't drive. So he would drive, and sometimes he's drifting over into the other lane. Tommy, move over because I could see. He wouldn't stop for a red light. It's a miracle he didn't get killed, but he would drive us. So he drove us to that game. Anyway, we're there and Tommy like stumbles in, you know, he couldn't, I'm not trying to ridicule him, but he couldn't control his body. He looked, you know, physically challenged. So we go up with Tom Hanks and I go, oh my God, was this wrong? This is going to be a train wreck. Introducing this guy to Tom Hanks. So we get in and we go to Tom's box seat. And I sit Tommy down. Tom Hanks comes around and sits by him. So I'm like, cover my eyes. Oh my God, Tom can't even understand what the guy's saying. You know, hey, Mr. Hanks, how, you know, you couldn't even understand. So I go, this is going to be horrible. So I turned away. Then I turned back. I noticed Tommy's talking and Tom Hanks is earnestly listening, nodding his head. You know, this is the kind of mensch he is. So Tommy's telling him things, you know, Mr. Hanks, and, you know, you couldn't, and Tom's listening and asking him questions. And then Tom takes a baseball out and signed it. So and gave it to Tommy. Tommy treasured that ball for the rest of his life. And then after he died, he left it to me. But that was the most beautiful moment. And
That
Hanks
is
was,
so sweet.
you know, yeah, Hanks was a joker. Even he goes, "Who drove you guys?" He was making a joke. And all through the game, we go like 4th inning. He goes, "Hey, who drove you guys?" And then when we left, Tom goes, "Who drove you guys?" But I swear to God, Tommy drove us. Tommy would somehow be able to manipulate and drive a car without us being killed. So he drove us, and that was a beautiful moment.
Wow,
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Eddie, I appreciate so much your transparency in this interview. You're open, but you are a great storyteller. Some of the comments on Twitch right now are if Eddie Deezen read the phone book, I would listen to the entire thing.
Thank you. Everybody's very kind. Thank you.
You've been a big hit. We would love to have you back on as we get closer to Christmas time to talk more Polar Express.
It'll so be my pleasure. I have so many Polar Express stories. I have great stories about Tom Hanks. Yeah, but it's been such a pleasure. Chris, Scott, and Sarah, you are 3 of the nicest people. I love all 3. I hope we're lifelong friends. And it was my pleasure being on your show.
Thank you, Eddie.
I wish you all continued success.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you
Now,
so much.
Sure.
Seriously,
before
thank
you go, can I get you to do a this is Eddie Deezen. You're listening to the No New Friends podcast, and maybe do the Dexter's laugh.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Hi, this is Eddie Deezen. This is the No New Friends podcast with Chris, Scott, and Sarah. This is Mandark. Oh, my adenoids.
Eddie
Oh,
Deezen, thank you so much. It's been
Hey.
amazing having you on.
one
Thank you
last
so much.
comment, Eddie.
Yes.
When I was little, I went to sleep with a big bird stuffed animal every day,
Oh.
every night. So thank you for being his temporary foster brother, Donnie
Okay.
Doda.
My pleasure. Okay.
I just can't believe how many voices you were a part of my. You were a big part of my childhood. It just
Oh, well,
blows
thank
my
you so
mind.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
No,
you.
seriously, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Seriously.
Have a great
Yes.
summer, everybody.
Eddie,
You too,
thank you so
Eddie.
You
much.
too.
We
Okay.
appreciate you.
Bye. Are you going to stay on to say hi to Stevie? You want to say hi to Stevie?
Sure.
Okay, let me get him.
If he's feeling up to it,
Yeah,
if he's
he's not
sleeping,
dead,
it's fine.
yeah.
If he's asleep, I'll just sign it off. I think I know how.
Okay.
We appreciate you, Eddie. This was amazing.
Sure. Yeah.
Wow,
he's
everybody,
asleep.
don't worry
asleep.
about it.
Yeah,
then.
don't wake him up.
I'm just going to sign off and say what a pleasure it was. And I love all you guys.
thank
Have a
you.
great summer.
Thank
You
you, Eddie.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You
Okay.
too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
I cannot believe the amount of cartoons.
You have to hit end, Eddie. You have to hit like end or hang
You'll
up.
see
or-
like leave or end or something.
Let's see.
I don't know. Are you on your phone? Because I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, he's on the
It's
phone, I
Stevie's.
think.
I'm so sorry. It's Stevie's phone. I don't know. How
It's
to shut it
okay.
off.
It's an
I'm just gonna
Android.
Okay.
Yeah, if you click the middle of the screen, you might see a red leave.
Let's see.
In the meantime, we still have your amazing voice commentating
Okay.
each trying to
Let's see. I see it's 8:58. I see the screen. I'm putting my hand on the screen. I can't. Let's see.
Maybe just turn the phone off. If all else fails. Throw it in the water and then
Throw
just
it in
put
the
in
wa-
some rice. Throw in some rice after.
Damn. Let's see. Hang on.
If you're still listening, Eddie, everybody in our chat absolutely loved you and can't wait for you to be back.
Thank you so much. You're very kind. God darn.
I'm looking to see if I can end it for him. I mean, I can put him in the waiting room, but I can't.
Well, yeah, just put him in the waiting room so then he can figure it out on his own time so he doesn't have to
Okay.
get stressed about
I'm
being
gonna leave it
live.
in. Stevie is gone. I'm just going to leave it in his room. So I can't say I'm going to my own room. So
No
you might be
problem.
on just with Stevie, but he'll turn off when he gets home.
Yeah, I'm gonna just
Sounds
put it in the
good.
waiting room. That way, yeah,
Okay.
you don't hear us or anything.
Thanks
Eddie,
a lot.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
so much,
much.
Eddie.
Thank
Okay.
you.
See you guys later. Thank
All
you.
right,
Later,
bye.
Eddie.
Okay, bye.
Oh my
That
God.
was, that was so cool.
Yeah, the first time I talked to him on the phone, I was like, this guy's gonna be gold, and we don't even know. We don't even know how good it's gonna be.
That was I had no idea he would man, dude, I'm telling you, me and my sister used to watch Dexter's Laboratory all the time. I know that guy. Like Sarah, you know Mandrake,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
The-
Absolutely.
The laugh, holy
He
shit.
moved his head and I saw Fairly Odd Parents, so I'm down here like Googling where who he was.
Oh my
wild.
gosh.
He was
Unbelievable.
fun.
Yeah. Everybody watching, so happy you were here for this, and I hope you enjoyed that because that was incredible. What
Yeah.
we need we need to have him on 10 more times by the end of the year, and that won't
I
even
was
be
gonna
enough.
say, does he have a book? He needs to write a book.
Right? I know. Or have his own podcast. He could just talk for
yeah.
10 minutes. You
It would
know?
look like the Bible if he wrote a book.
10.
Yeah. 10. Well, an hour. Yeah.
He was great. He was so nice and genuine and real. I'm getting texts from Ryan, and I'm asking them as soon as he sends them because I knew he'd answer it.
Yeah.
He's like,
yeah.
dude, apparently he's a Scientologist. Like, oh, I gotta ask him about Scientology. Were you expecting that at all, Scott? The Scientology question?
He had said something, and I was like, huh. I think he was, practicing Scientologist, especially when
Yeah.
he said, I don't believe in medicine and all that.
And that
But
was super interesting when he started talking about it a little bit. Gave it
Yeah.
a little bit more of humanization, I feel like.
yeah, it did. It did.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to that interview. You're listening to the No New Friends
Wow.
podcast. We'll be right back.